welcome back to the Crafty Yarn Barn. Today I'm going to show you how to make these little pouches. Store your phone charger away and you can stuff your phone charger in there, put it in your purse, put it in your console in your car, and it will keep your phone charger from getting all tangled up. Be nice and neat little carry pouch for traveling. So tune in here and I'll show you how to make these cute little phone charger holders. Today I'm going to show you how to make this cute little phone charger accessory holders here. You can either put some little earbuds in there or your phone charger. Let me talk about the size of this project. 3 1/4 inches wide. Looks like it's going to be 4 inches tall. And the little flap that we've made, let me unfasten it here and we'll look at the sizing of that flap. 1, 2, a little over 2 inches long, about 1 inch. Yep, it's 1 inch wide. Got our little, all this is chain. It's like 8 chains. And then when I fastened in my yarn tail, I just sewed it in through here just to give it a little bit more reinforcement. Got a button on there, but cute little pouch. And it's seamless. It's just really a spiral. Let's go ahead and get started. I'll show you what you need to have to make this little project. And then I'll give you a tutorial, step-by-step tutorial. These are the items that you'll need for your project. I've got some yarn. It's called Big Twist Cotton. It's 85% cotton, 15% polyester. It's 96 yards per skein. It's a 4-weighted yarn. It calls for a I-9 5mm crochet hook. And the color on this yarn, it is, there it is. It's called Denim Splash. Isn't that pretty? Got the blue and the white. Looks like a washed denim color. Super pretty. All right, I got my crochet hook. I've got scissors. I've got a needle to sew in our yarn tails that we have and to sew on our button. I've got 2 row markers, and here's my little button I have. I got this collection of buttons from our local Walmart. It has various sizes and shapes and colors and things in there. It's a really cool little piece that I got in the craft section of Walmart. So you check that out. And let's go ahead and we can get started. All right, the first thing that we need to do is we're going to do a slip knot. And that's going to connect our yarn to our crochet hook. So what I do is take this tail, let it hang down, and I take the yarn in this hand here that's connected to our skein of yarn. It's called your working yarn. Take the yarn, like to wrap it around my 2 fingers, and the yarn here, and that's the working yarn connected to my skein. I push it through the yarn, that loop that's on my fingers. I grab that piece of yarn and I just pull it tight. Simple as that. Put my hook into that slip knot and I just pull it tight. And you don't want it so tight that you can't move your hook easily and slide up and down on the crochet hook. Okay, so let this tail right here just hang down. And then here, my working yarn, I grab it and we're going to do 12 chains. To take my crochet hook, go underneath that yarn over, and just pull it through the loop of yarn that's on your hook. That's chain 1. We're going to take our hook, go underneath the yarn, grab that yarn, and pull it through the loop of yarn that's on our hook. That's chain 2. So a total of 12 chains. That's going to be our foundation chain. That's 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. That's our foundation. So now we're going to put a single crochet into the second chain from the hook. So the loop of yarn on your crochet hook does not count as a chain. This last chain that you made, that's 1. And then this next one is 2. So the second chain from the hook, 1, 2, and you're going to put your crochet hook right into that chain stitch. And you're going to put a single crochet. So we're going to put our hook right in that foundation chain. And we're going to yarn over and pull it through. So there's 2 loops of yarn on your hook. You're going to yarn over and grab the yarn and pull it through both loops of yarn on your hook. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go all the way down this foundation chain and make single crochets. On this last chain, we're going to put 3 single crochets. We're going to put 1, 2, and we're going to turn and come back the other way. So there'll be 3 in this chain, and then every stitch on here going all the way back down, we'll put 1. Before we keep going any further, that single crochet that I just made, I'm going to mark it with a row marker, because when we come back down this foundation chain, do our single crochets, and then come back up and do single crochets, we're going to connect and end row 1 right there in that stitch. And I want to mark it so I'll know where we're at. So that was 1 single crochet. So into the next chain, we're going to put a single crochet. And you're going to keep going all the way down the foundation chain. And then when you get to the last chain on the foundation, stop. And I'll show you what to do in order to come back around the other way and finish our row 1. I'll see you there in just a second. I just did my single crochet into the last foundation chain. So now on this end, I'm going to put 2 more. So in the last foundation chain, you have the one you just did for row 1. You're going to turn it where it's straight up and down like this. You're going to do 1 more into that same foundation chain. That's going to be on the very end. And then you're going to slightly turn your work so that you can go back the other way. So when you're done, you're going to come all the way down and back around. So that's what we're going to do for the rest of the project, is we're just going to be crocheting round and round and round in a circle. And it's slowly going to grow and make a pouch. So I've already did my last foundation chain. I did 1 single crochet. I slightly turned it up and down. I did 1 more, and now I'm going to turn it this way and go back the other way and do a 3rd. So 3 single crochets into the last foundation chain. And you're going to just let that tail hang down. So don't crochet that into your work. Just leave it hanging down and out of the way. All right, so I did my 3 single crochets, and now I'm going to go back down this way. I need to do 10 more. So let me get my yarn here together. So I do 10 more. There's 1. And go back down this way onto your foundation. And when you get to the very end of the row, after doing 10 more of those single crochets, stop, and I'll show you how to finish this round 1 and start round 2. So now I'm at the very end, back where we started. I did 1 single crochet. I already have 1 single crochet from when I started the round, so I just need 1 more here at the end. And then I'm going to, right where I put my stitch marker, I'm going to take it out, and I'm going to do a slip stitch right into the top of that single crochet. So right there in the very top of it, I'm going to put my hook, grab the yarn, pull it through. I have 2 pieces of yarn on the hook. I'm going to take this first piece of yarn and pull it through the next piece of yarn on my hook. So I have 1 left. That's a slip stitch. So there I've fastened off and ended round 1. Now, the next thing that I do, I'm going to do single crochets into the top of every single crochet. Oh, I dropped it. I'm going to put single crochets into the top of every single crochet that I did all the way around. Okay, so where I'm going to start is the same exact place that I just did my slip stitch. So I'm going to go right into that stitch where I did a slip stitch. And the top of that single crochet, I'm going to yarn over and pull my yarn through. I'm going to yarn over and do a single crochet. And then I'm going to take my row marker, I'm going to mark the top of that single crochet. And when we come back all the way around, what we're going to do is we're going to do a single crochet into the top of every single crochet on row 1. When we get right here, this is our last one, we'll do a single crochet, and then we're going to go ahead and start round 3. We're not going to do a slip stitch. We're not going to do a turning chain. We're just going to keep crocheting around and around, single crochets all the way around until we get to the end of our project. We're going to do a total of 17 rows. So let's go ahead and do the start and the finish of this row 2 with each other. I just did my single crochet into the same place I did a slip stitch. Mark that. Then into the next single crochet, top of it, we're going to do a single crochet, and we're going to go into every single crochet on the row beneath and do a single crochet. Now when you get down and you make your way all the way back around to right here, come back and I'll show you how to start row 3. All the way back around, I did my last single crochet right here, and this next stitch is where I started round 2. So on a lot of projects, what you would do is now slip stitch right into this stitch, but we're not going to do that. And the reason that we're not going to do that is sometimes when you do that, you see a seam, and I don't want us to see a seam on our project. I don't want us to see where we connected and did a turning chain and then came back around. We're just going to keep crocheting around and around and around without any type of slip stitch or turning chain. And what we're going to do is every time we get to the end, of our round, we're going to take our crochet marker off. We're going to go right into where we took our crochet marker out, go into that stitch and do a single crochet. And then we're going to mark it because that's the first stitch of that round. So then on this next round, I would come all the way around, do a single crochet into each stitch. And when I get here to my very last single crochet, I'm going to take this crochet marker off and then do a single crochet and then keep single crocheting all the way around. And what it's going to do, it's going to grow your pouch. It's going to continue to grow your pouch. You just go around and around and around without any, and it won't have any seams in it. And after you do 17 rows, this is the size of the project you're going to have. And you can see each row. So this right here was your first round that you made. So 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 17 rows. And this is the pouch that you're going to have. Once you get to the end of 17 rows, you stop right here into this last stitch on row 17, come back and I'll show you how to end the project, fasten off, and I'll show you what's next. Now I've crocheted my 17 rows. I've come all the way around and I'm right here and did a single crochet into my last stitch before the row marker. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my row marker off. So you put your crochet hook into the top of that stitch, just like you were going to do your single crochet. Yarn over and pull it through. You have your 2 loops of yarn on your hook. Now you're going to just pull that loop of yarn through the loop of yarn that's on your hook. That's a slip stitch. Now we're ready to do our last step before we finish our pouch. And what we're going to do is do a slip stitch in the top of each of these single crochets all the way around. It'll make a nice finish to the top of your pouch. So that was 1 slip stitch. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark that, because when we come back around, that's where we're going to stop and finish off our pouch. So that was slip stitch that I just made. Mark it. And now we're going to go into each top of these single crochets and do a slip stitch. So go into the top of that next one, yarn over and pull it through, and then pull that loop of yarn through the loop of yarn that's already on your hook. That's a slip stitch. And go into the next one and do that all the way around. And when you get to where we started, where that row marker is, come back and I'll show you how to finish off your work. We're going to put our little closer flap on the top with our button. So see you back here in just a few minutes. Now we're almost to the end here. Let me put one more slip stitch, and I've made it all the way around, and I've reached this spot where I started. So I'm going to take that off. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go right in to the top of that slip stitch, grab my yarn and pull it through, and then I'm going to do a final slip stitch, and I'm going to take my scissors and cut a yarn tail there. And now I'm going to yarn over and pull that yarn tail all the way through, grab that yarn tail and tug it tight. And now I've finished my little pouch. I'm going to get my yarn needle, and I'm going to sew in those yarn tails. So I'm just going to flip my little pouch inside out, because I still have that yarn tail down here at the bottom that I never sewed in. So what I'm going to do at the bottom, let me get my needle here and show you really quick what I'm going to do with the bottom one. I'm going to take this yarn tail, and what I'm going to do, you can see where your foundation chain is, where it's just a little bit pulled apart there from when you did your first round. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and forth through here and sew my yarn tail back and forth all the way down and come back the other way, and hide that yarn tail into my work. And then what that's also going to do for the bottom of your project is give it a little bit more secure foundation chain, where as you put items in this little pouch, you don't want that bottom part to stretch out any. You want it to look nice and neat. So I'm just going to go back and forth and hide my yarn tail in here. I'll come back here in just a second, and then what we'll do with this other yarn tail at the top where we finished, the same thing. I'm just going to sew it into my yarn and hide it in my work, usually about 2 or 3 inches, and I'll come back the other way. I'll see you back here in just a second after sewing in our yarn tails. Okay, now I'm finished sewing in my yarn tail, so I'm going to flip it back to the right side. And there's our little pouch. So now what we're going to do is to put on our little flap and our button. Make another slip knot. And what I'm going to do on this one, normally I say just make a short little yarn tail, but what I'm going to say on this one, about 12 to 14 inches long, pretty long yarn tail here that we're going to set aside, because I'm going to do something a little bit extra with this yarn tail. So it needs to be triple the size of normal. So about a foot long or more. So what I'm going to do now is make my little slip knot. Get it on my hook here. So now you've got your slip knot onto your crochet hook. I'm going to take it off of my hook, and I'm going to find the middle piece of this pouch. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4. So to the edge and go over about to the 5th single crochet. That's where I'm going to start. I'm going to stick my hook in there, slip on this slip knot back onto that crochet hook, and I'm going to pull that slip knot through. So now we're going to do a chain. Now we're ready to start our little tab where we're going to use to hook to our button. So now we're going to do a single crochet right into the same stitch that we just did our slip stitch and connected that yarn. So we're going to put our hook through, draw through and draw that yarn through. We got 2 loops of yarn on our hook. We're going to yarn over and pull it through. That's a single crochet. So now I'm going to mark that. It always works best for me when I mark my stitches. It keeps them nice and neat and straight. That's my trick for myself. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, but we're going to do 3 single crochets. So we did 1. We're going to go right into the next stitch, and we're going to do a single crochet. It's going to be a little bit tough because we did our little slip stitches, and that makes it pretty thick there. yarn over and pull it through, yarn over and pull it through both stitches. That's a single crochet. And we're going to do one more. Go through the top of that pouch, pull it through, yarn over and pull it through. That's your third single crochet. So that is the first row of our little flap that we're going to make here for our button. We're going to turn our work, just like the pages of a book. You're going to take it, turn it from right to left. We're going to do a chain one, and we're going to do a single crochet right into the top of that last stitch, single crochet stitch you made. Yarn over, pull it through, and do a single crochet. Yarn over and pull it through. There you go. Let me mark it. For me, it's hard to see this dark yarn, so I have to mark. My eyes are getting old. So for you younger crocheters, it might not be that big of a deal, but I like to mark things and it helps me. So go to the next, top of the next stitch, do another single crochet, and then into this last stitch, we're going to remove it and do another single crochet. So some of you older crocheters, you may sympathize with me. Not sure, but I like to mark my stitches. All right, so that's row 2. So for this flap, we're going to do, let me look at my notes here, 9 total rows of single crochets. So all you do is 3 single crochets, a chain stitch, turn your work. That 1 chain stitch is your turning chain, and then do 3 more, chain, turn your work, and then go back the other ways. Come back and I'll show you what to do. And we'll finish off this little flap, and what we'll do is we'll put on our button and make a little loop to fasten on to our buttons. So see you back here in just a few minutes after making your 9 total rows. Okay, now I've did my 9 rows, and you see how it's made this little flap for you. So now we're going to make our loop. So when we put our button here, that loop's going to fasten over our button. So the trick to this is what you need to decide, like whatever size button you're going to use, that's going to determine the length of chain that you need to make. So for me, this big button, I'm going to do 8 chains. So let me go ahead and do that, and I'm going to show you how to help you decide how many chains to make for your button. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 chains. So now the size of this loop here that you're going to make to fasten onto your button really depends upon the size of button that you're going to use. So my button is a pretty good size button, and I've made several, so I already know that I need 8 chains, but I'll show you how I came to that conclusion. So I'm going to do my chains, and what you're going to do is really just test it out. So I'm going to take this chain that I made, and I'm going to slip stitch it to the first single crochet onto that last row. I'm going to take my crochet hook, put it into the top of that first single crochet, yarn over and pull it through, and then I'm going to pull that loop of yarn through the loop that's on my hook. Now I'm going to leave that there, and I'm just going to test it. So what you need to do is take your button and see if you can pass that chain stitch that you made over your button, and you can push it through easily. And it went through really rather easy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, instead of 8 chains, let me go ahead and unfasten it, and I think I'm going to pull one of my chains out, and I'm going to go with 7 chains and see if that is a little bit tighter. Let me put my hook through here, and I'm going to slip stitch it. There we go. Now I'm going to take my button and pass it through there. I like that better. That's a little bit snugger around that button so that it's not going to easily come off. So I'm going to, instead of 8, I'm going to go with 7. And it's really you looking at your button, testing it out, and seeing how many chains you think you need to make in order to make that work. So now I'm going to fasten it off really quick. Have my little yarn tail there. There we go. And to fasten it off, you just yarn over, pull that entire piece of working yarn through there, and pull it snug and tight. There we go. Now I'm going to take my yarn needle, and this piece of yarn that right here, what I'm going to do is hide it into my work. But what I'm going to do with this really long yarn tail that we created whenever we first started this flap, I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to weave and sew that yarn tail all along this edge right here, and come across and weave it all on this edge and weave it down here through this. And what that's going to do is going to get a little more structure to this flap, where it's going to keep it nice and neat, the edging of it straight, give a little bit more reinforcement. And then as I come back, this yarn tail here, I'm going to weave it all along up into this chain stitch that I made, so that it doesn't stretch out, and give it a little bit more reinforcement. So both of these yarn tails, I'm going to use those to sew all along this edge and all along the edge of this chain to give some reinforcement. Whenever that's done, I'm going to take my button, I'm going to fasten it right here, right onto the top of my project, and I'm going to sew it on. I'll come back here in a minute and show you what it looks like when I'm done. All right, got my yarn tails all sewed in. Let's put our little flap on. Get it going right there. Nice and secure, snug. Look at that, isn't that cute? Cute little phone charger holder. I love it. So thanks for tuning in. Check out the playlist. I have tons of other beginner projects just for you to help you learn. Feel free to put some comments in the section down below, and I'd be happy to respond to you if you have any questions. See you soon, and be on the lookout for the next video coming your way. Bye.